Alright, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Randy here with RTS Mobile Gaming, bringing you a phenomenal video today. First of all, happy Friday! Oh yes, it's Friday! I got a new Friday shirt on today. So happy Friday to everybody, especially Lore Maester, my long and one true bay. So we are playing Lord of the Rings Rise to War today, and we are talking about Kirun. This is a high-level Whale Kirun versus Whale Theoden report with the new build. I just covered the Spotlight earlier this week, and now we're looking at a high-level PvP report. The devs did fix the R5 talent title build that had a bug. I commented in my video the other day that this Master of the War chariot was not triggering if you do not have chariots in your march. That has been fixed and removed. You can now trigger this Dragoon and Halberdier buff and the +1 attack buff, even if you don't have chariots in your march, okay? So, extremely interesting to see that. They've also changed the war chariots, so the scythe damage does 60% increased damage, which is phenomenal. It's actually going to be quite a big damage uptick. You could see anywhere from 15 to 20k more damage from chariots over a long fight against a low defense target. So, we are looking at Cleed. Shout out to Cleed and J Mills. Shout out to J Mills. Both of these folks are phenomenal. They are down here fighting each other and doing tests all day with high-level builds. So let's get into it. Here's the Kirun build, ladies and gents. Kirun! Alright, first things first, we have an Easterling Spear, which is phenomenal. Going to give you great +3 attack as well as plus damage to mounted units. This is actually going to be a stronger ability than the standard 9% plus attack to all when you're fighting enemy cavalry. At 5 out of 5 refinement, it's plus 18% damage to mounted, okay? Then we have this chest, the Mithril Coat here, which is great defense and focus for your units. I wouldn't say this is best in slot. This is nice to have, but there are definitely some better chests out there. Bone Mask, this is going to be one of the best in slot for sure for Kirun. Because it is going to cause the madness as well as give HP. The HP to your units is going to contribute to the overall healing output that you do. The more HP, the more baseline there is to heal, okay? Next, we have the Bone Talisman. This sucker is phenomenal for Kirun and really anybody running Evil Men. This will give you plus 9% damage to Evil Men when it's maxed out. Skill-wise, we have the R1 and the R5 titles pretty much maxed out here. Lord of the Sand, Frontline Rescue, we've got Sand Soldier to give you phenomenal healing. Then we've got the R5 tree, which is fantastic damage. So what he's done here is skipped the R3 tree, which is an interesting take. I don't disagree with it. I think you're either going to go super tanky or super high damage output, and he's gone with the pure damage output build, which I really like. Okay, so Halberdiers are going to receive 30% reduced damage from mounted units. This is very key for this fight since he's fighting a Theoden, okay? And then we have Tribal Tactics, which is basically a 25% chance to do a double strike. And then Absolute Leader will give his units plus 30% damage dealt since he has 3 evil men in his army, okay? Next, we have the Theoden from J Mills. This Theoden is absolutely maxed out, whaled out. This thing is insane. He is one of the dirtiest Theodens on the server, hard to beat. So I'm glad to see this such a good and close battle. This will be a great combat report to review with all of you amazing people. Happy Friday! Yes. All right. The Reach of Rittermark. Fantastic might, speed, and speed to his units, as well as plus damage dealt. Okay, Quilted Armor, great might, focus, and speed, and he has this focus protection, which will reduce the focus damage he receives against commanders such as Sauron or Gil-galad, okay? Then we have the Horseman's Helm, which is going to be might, speed, and armor, as well as madness immunity. And then we have the Fiddle of the Eldest. So, this will give you initiative for the first 4 rounds. The only problem I have here is Horseman's Helm. If you know you're going to fight Kirun, I would swap this out for an anti-stun. But again, that Kirun does have a Madness helmet on, so either one works for me. Now, build-wise, he's got Horsemaster, there are 5. He's got 30 minus defense with Chaotic Retreat. He's got Initiative here. He doesn't need that, I don't think, because he does have the Splits ability. So if you wanted to, he can move that point over and get another -5 defense, but it's not game-breaking. You're talking a 1% damage increase versus getting initiative for the last 6 rounds of the fight. Maybe just keep it in there. It's a good skill to have. Then we have the R3 Irid Leader, which is great healing. Then we have Mounted Combat, which is phenomenal damage output. He's got Rehorum, which is phenomenal damage, and he's got 9 out of 15 into the cleanse here with renewed, okay, to remove debuffs every other round. Unit-wise, right, we've got all evil men here with Kirun, and then, of course, Theoden's got a mixture of the Rohan Marshals, and he's also got some Cataphracts and Bonites, okay? Into the report itself. Get super excited, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be phenomenal. We'll just blitz through a couple rounds here and see how it looks. Here in round 1, well, let's see that buff apply. I'm looking for the buff. Oh, it applies in the pre-battle phase. That's right. Okay, here we go. Pre-battle phase, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Kirun's Master of the War Chariot. Okay, the War Chariot's going to get bonus damage on their bleed. Dragoons will be plus 30% damage against mounted. Halberdiers will be minus 30% damage received against mounted. Okay, here is the 3 stacking buff from Absolute Leader, giving all of his units plus 30% physical damage dealt. Really phenomenal. Let's see how that looks, ladies and gents. I'm really excited to see how this looks, to be honest with you. Okay. So we have a Bonite hitting the Halberdiers. The Halberdiers are not able to counterattack the Bonites because the Bonites are out of range. I believe this used to counterattack, so I think this is the mechanic that they fixed. I believe the Halberdiers and some of the other units with passive counterattacks were able to counterattack ranged. It looks like this has been changed, which is for the better. Long story short, good damage output here. You got a mounted combat trigger from Theoden. Okay, Cataphract coming in hot. Halberdiers counterattacking for 1800. The Dragoons are coming in hot with a double strike here, ladies and gentlemen. Just about 16,000 damage output there. There's Kirun popping a heal on the Halberdiers. Here comes the Warthsice with the plus 60% damage, ladies and gentlemen, on the Bonites. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. And the Halberdiers, as you can see here, have that plus 50% damage output. But as you saw up top, they really didn't take as much damage as you'd expect them to take from a Theoden Bonite stack here. So, really seeing the effectiveness of that minus 30% damage received by the Halberdiers, okay? Here in round 2, Theoden cleanses. The Marshals and the Bonites are cleansed. Did the Bonite just get cleansed of the bleed? Did that just happen? It looks like the Bonites were just cleansed of the bleed, ladies and gentlemen. How interesting is that? Wow. Okay, so the bleed is cleansable. It's not avoidable, but it is cleansable. That is something important that I did not realize. I figured it would not be avoidable in any way. So we will not see a bleed on the Bonites. Sorry about your luck, War Chariots. What an interesting effect. Okay, so the Marshals are not stunned. The Bonites are cleansed. Very nice. The Bonites are coming in hot to punch the Dragoons. As you can see here, they actually had higher damage output, ironically, against the Dragoons because they had a higher damage stack from Rohorham. And the Dragoons get the same 30% reduced damage compared to the Halberdiers get 30% reduced damage from cavalry. Dragoons get 30% reduced damage from ranged. So, similar to see the difference in damage output there. The Halberdiers definitely effective in countering the damage. Here we go. Marshals coming in hot and heavy, ladies and gentlemen, only hitting for 13,000 damage. This buff to the Halberdiers is absolutely insane. Kirun is now a god at killing Rohan units. Absolutely insane. Such a big buff to Kirun versus mounted units, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot say that enough. Such a big buff. All right, let's get into round 3. Here's Kirun's Frontline Rescue, healing about 35,000 HP. Phenomenal healing right there in round 3. Absolutely beautiful. Then we have the War Chariots. They are ticking on the Marshals. I'm waiting to see what the next cleanse does in round 4 here. Okay, so the Marshals are taking 2,800 damage ticking from that bleed. So we can assume that's about 28k damage over the entire fight compared to, whatever it was before. Woo! Okay, here we go. Marshals with an auto attack and a mounted combat trigger. Really getting their damage stacks up from Rohorham. Maxed out right there. Onslaught reduced a little bit, of course. All right, here we go. Halberdiers punching them for 12,644. Here comes Theoden cleansing some more abilities. He did not actually trigger his cleanse. His 60% chance to trigger a cleanse failed on 3 out of the 4 units. So that bleed is going to keep on ticking. Oh my goodness. Bone Knights hit the War Chariots for 26,000 damage and an additional 12,500 damage on the Dragoons. That is crazy. When you consider that damage difference to what they dealt to the Dragoons and the Halberdiers, absolutely crazy how much damage output the Bone Knights are dealing to the War Chariots versus the 2 units that get reduced damage, okay? Let's see what they did in the next round. Who did they attack? Where's the Bone Knights? I want to see who they hit next. Where are they? We will find them. Here we go. The Bone Knights hitting the Halberdiers for only 16,000 damage. So that damage difference is so noticeable, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolutely beautiful. And another mounted combat trigger. Jay Mills is getting so lucky with these combat triggers. He's gotten so many mounted combats. I've never seen so many in my life. Look at this. Cataphracts with mounted combat. Everybody's getting mounted combat. You get a mounted combat, and you get a mounted combat, and you get a mounted combat, and I get Friday shirts. Anyways. All right. I mean, look. You guys get the picture. What an amazing battle here, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely phenomenal. Very close damage outputs, which is absolutely surprising when you consider the fact that Theoden is one of the highest damage dealing commanders in the entire game. He's whaled out, completely whaled out, massive respect level. He's got to be up at the 13 or 14 respect level, whaled out, max level, martial troops. I mean, guys, what else do you want? The marshals are insane damage. He's got 1,800 Bone Knights in there for insane damage. And Kirun is keeping up neck and neck with that output. So, if you enjoyed this video, give me the like and sub. This was such an interesting report, so evenly matched. Look at this. They are almost ending at the exact same HP. I would say this draw is about 5% in Theoden's favor as far as damage output. But in overall, tier 4 kills, I would say Kirun kind of edged him out in the resource versus training time to recoup this army. I'd say Kirun edged him out in that, but very, very even draw here. So, like and sub. I love you guys a long time. Kirun, ladies and gentlemen, Randy out.